39 Incredible Truths About the Moon Revealed. Touching secrets that will change your life forever. Jake leaned against the gritty workbench in his small-town garage, the scent of oil filling the air. His green eyes sparkled under the flickering fluorescent lights, as he thought of the moon, the very same lunar glow that inspired his father's enchanting tales. "Mia, do you remember the stories Dad used to tell us about the moon?" he called out, a smile breaking across his face. She ran in, her pigtails swaying, eager to hear more. "Tell me again," she gushed. Beneath the patched roof of their old house, memories of their father danced like shadows at dusk. He'd made them believe that the moon was more than just a celestial body. It was hope, and hope was what they needed, especially with the community center hanging by a thread. Determined to save the heart of their town, Jake hatched a plan, a fundraiser that would breathe life into their gathering place and rekindle community bonds. His heart raced as ideas fluttered through his mind, igniting a fire in his belly. "How about we theme it around the moon?" he suggested. With Mia's eager nod, they plotted an evening filled with stories that would make their neighbors feel connected. As they spread the word door to door, something unexpected happened. Tales of the moon brought hidden truths to the surface. Jake learned of his father's unrealized dreams, whispered regrets that haunted their home. Each revelation how fiercely he fought for a better life made Jake feel both enlightened and burdened. Could he measure up to his father's sacrifices? But as excitement bubbled, so did tension. Families with wealth mocked the pair, leaving stinging remarks about their background, dismissing their ambitions. Yet during community gatherings, laughter echoed, tears flowed, and every shared memory forged new connections. Jake and Mia's mission turned into a beacon of unity, illuminating the town like the very moon they revered. Just when things began to feel bright, whispers turned into arguments. A misunderstanding erupted, the fragile fabric of their unity threatened to tear. Jake felt the weight of his legacy pressing down hard. Would he rise to meet the challenge, or let it shatter everything he and Mia had worked for? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The big night arrived. Jake's heart thumped in rhythm with the gathered crowd. As he and Mia took the makeshift stage, moonlit lanterns flickered around them, casting warm glows over hopeful faces. They shared tales of the moon, weaving threads of history, love, and culture that bound them together. Then, to Jake's shock, he spotted a familiar face in the crowd. A figure from the past. He never expected someone who could unravel everything he thought he knew about his family. His pulse quickened. Would confronting this ghost of yesterday strengthen their unity, or would it unravel the patchwork of hope they had stitched together so carefully? All eyes were on him, and every whisper felt like a challenge. The stakes were high, casting shadows over the radiant glow of the moment. Could love and understanding truly mend the rifts that life had torn apart? Jake's breath caught in his throat as he scanned the crowd, locking eyes with the figure from his past. It was Andy, his father's old friend, someone Jake hadn't seen since he was a boy. A ghost of a man who once filled their home with laughter. But that laughter had turned to silence after the fallout between their families. A rift neither Jake nor Mia could mend. The pit in his stomach tightened. "Mia, I think we need to," he started. But she squeezed his hand, her small fingers steadying him. The encouragement in her eyes urged him forward. They had a mission to fulfill, and for the sake of the community, Jake had to face this uncomfortable truth. With a gulp, he stepped closer to the edge of the stage. The murmurs in the crowd settled, anticipation hanging thick in the air like the scent of rain before a storm. "Everyone," he began, his voice wavering slightly, "I want to tell you a story about the moon, and the man who taught me that the light we see is often shadowed by darker pasts." As Jake launched into their father's tales, weaving memories of perseverance and fear, He could feel Andy's eyes on him. Each word tugged at the threads of their shared history, unraveling the carefully hidden emotions that lay between them: anger, love, regret. Mia joined in, her youthful spirit shining through as she shared how the community had come together in unity, citing examples of kindness exchanged even amid scorn. The air felt electric, a spark igniting the hearts of their neighbors. But even as the crowd leaned in closer, Jake felt the weight of unfinished conversations with Andy pressing down on him. The laughter and tears from the audience echoed around him as if offering him a lifeline. Could this man, this relic of their father's past, be the bridge they needed? In his heart, Jake sensed a reckoning. "Andy, I see you," he called out, throwing caution to the wind. "I know our families have been through a ringer, but the moon reminds us that even in darkness, there's light. We need to mend what was broken." The crowd stirred, whispers crackling like sparks. Silence fell as he stepped down from the stage, the lanterns flickering above casting delicate shadows across Andy's worn face. The moment felt suspended, a breath held in hope. "Jake!" Andy hesitated, his voice strained with years of distance. "Your father and I had our differences, but I never stopped caring about him. About you too. I shouldn't have turned my back when you needed me most." Jake's heart raced. Could vulnerability lead to healing? "Our past doesn't have to dictate our future," he replied, the warmth of his words momentarily thawing the chill that had settled between them for so long. As emotion hung thick in the air, the crowd watched as Jake and Andy stepped closer together. This fragile moment created ripples of hope, but the path ahead remained uncertain. Just as Jake dared to hope for a reconciliation, a voice rang out, slicing through the newfound peace. "What about the future of this town? Are we really going to forgive and forget all that was lost?" The accusatory tone broke the spell, reminding everyone of the deep scars just below the surface. Jake felt the tension rise again, the delicate thread of connections they had begun to weave now twisting into knots of doubts. Could their shared mission truly outshine the shadows of their past? The answer lay just out of reach. Would he have the strength to pull everyone back together when the next confrontation inevitably came? Jake's heart pounded in his chest as the voice echoed through the crowd. It was as if a cold wind had swept in, chilling the warmth of hope that had begun to bloom between him and Andy. He turned slowly, scanning the faces now painted with doubt. He wanted to challenge the accusation. It felt unfair, the weight of fear and resentment pressing down on them all again. "Mia," he whispered, glancing at her. Her wide eyes mirrored his uncertainty, and he could feel the collective breath of the crowd, almost holding onto his next words. Would they believe in change? He took a step forward, channeling the fiery resolve he'd always admired in his father. "We can't just forget our past," he said firmly, "but we can choose to understand it. This town is more than scars. We're a tapestry of stories, held together even when the threads seem frayed." The murmurs grew, some nodding in agreement while others exchanged skeptical glances. Andy cleared his throat, taking a brave step forward. "Listen," he started, his voice trembling with raw honesty. "When I turned my back on your father, it was a choice steeped in pain. I was hurt. I'd lost my best friend, lost the easy laughter we had shared. Those moments were like the moon, bright yet strangely distant, haunting me." A soft sigh echoed from within the audience, as if collectively acknowledging this truth. Could vulnerability be the balm they needed? Jake could feel the crackle of connection breaking through the skepticism, the delicate strands of hope weaving a tighter knot. "Maybe," Jake said, his voice stronger now, "it's time we gave each other a second chance. Not just you and me, Andy, but all of us. Let us honor our loved ones who've gone, work together, heal together." A low murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. Mia squeezed his hand tighter, her expression radiating encouragement. "Let us look at the moon," he continued, feeling the winds shifting, not just as a reminder of what we've lost, but as a guide toward what we can still become. The crowd was drawn in closer, the light from the lanterns flickering against their hopeful faces, illuminating a path forward. For a moment, the pain of the past felt like a distant echo, overshadowed by the promise of potential. But just as the atmosphere began to warm, another voice cut through the shared moment. But what if the darkness returns? What if we're just hiding from the truth? A man with a weathered face and skeptical eyes stepped forward, locking his gaze onto Jake. The crowd murmured again, a ripple of uncertainty bouncing through them. Jake felt his heart sink. Here was the burden of confronting fear head-on, the reality that reconciliation could invite the risk of old wounds reopening. Could he continue to inspire hope when doubts loomed like storm clouds on the horizon? Then we face it together, Jake said, fighting the tremor in his voice. If we stop taking risks, we're only letting fear dictate our future. We can't let fear keep us in the shadows. An uneasy silence followed, each person weighing the possibility of stepping into the light against the desire to retreat into the safety of the familiar. Jake's stomach twisted, realizing how much was at stake. He scanned the crowd, seeing faces he had known since childhood, watching as they wrestled with their past. He cleared his throat, ready to break the tension. It starts with one small choice, one step toward trust. Are we ready to take that step? In that moment, he felt the weight of their gazes on him, challenging and hopeful. But as the crowd began to stir and whisper, a figure pushed past, a woman with a furious expression. And what if all of this leads to more betrayal? She shouted, eyes blazing with discontent. Jake's heart sank at the realization that the greatest battle lay ahead. Would they find the courage to face their shared pain, or would the shadows of the past engulf them once more? The crowd erupted into a flurry of voices, and Jake felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. He needed to act quickly before hope was swallowed by fear. We need to talk to each other, to listen and learn. But uncertainty folded back in, and that small seed of doubt began to bloom once more. Would they be brave enough to cultivate a stronger future? Would his call for unity ring through, or would they crumble back into division? With those thoughts swirling in his mind, Jake felt as if the moon itself was casting a spotlight on this pivotal moment, one that would determine their fate. Would they embrace the light and step forward together? Jake's breath caught in his throat. The crowd was torn between raw emotion and simmering anger, voices blending into an indistinguishable chaos. He felt as if he were standing on the edge of a great chasm, and one misstep could send everything crashing down. Mia, he called out, desperate to reconnect with her essence, her steady spirit. She stepped forward, her eyes widening as she scanned the crowd. For a heartbeat, they shared a silent understanding this was a defining moment, a crossroads for their community. Everyone, she began, voice trembling but determined. This is hard. We've fought so long with each other, in our hearts even. But what if healing starts here? What if we can reshape our narrative? Jake took heart from her words. Clenching his fists, he felt the warmth of determination spreading through him again. Look at all of us, he prompted, gesturing to the gathering of familiar faces. Look at the stories we've spun over the years, sorrows and joys tied together like a quilt. Surely, we can weave something brighter if we work together. A soft murmur spread like a wave through the crowd. Despite the skepticism, a spark of hope ignited within him, and he could see it in Mia's eyes. But the same skeptical man from before raised his voice again. How do we know we won't just repeat the past? That we won't just hurt each other again? Jake turned to face him, the tension thick in the air. We can't know for certain, he admitted. But what I do know is that we owe it to ourselves, to our future, to at least try. The pain has been real, but so has the love. The love we've shared is stronger than our divides. We have the power to choose. Choose? Choose what? To keep pretending everything's okay? The woman who had shouted words of betrayal now seemed more somber, her voice wavering between anger and vulnerability. What if we put down our walls only to find knives behind them? The crowd fell silent again. Jake's heart raced. What she said lingered like a shadow, illustrating the stakes they were all facing. I understand your fear, he said, his voice lowering to a sincere tone. But living in that fear denies us so much. Denies us the chance to grow together. Behind him, Mia nodded. How many of you remember the campfire nights? The laughter? She asked, her voice like a gentle lapping tide. Do you want to look back only to dwell on what hurt? Or can we build more warmth around those fires? As if finally connected by invisible threads, heads began to nod. Hope flickered in the eyes of the crowd, illuminating memories long buried. Encouraged, Jake pressed on. Let us take the dark, the hurt, and use it to fuel change, not fear. If we can accept our scars, we can share our strength. Yet, just as clarity began to spread, a distraught voice emerged from the back. But what if one person undermines everything? What if trust is only a game? Jake felt his heart lurch. Yes, trust was fragile, but like the moon reflecting light in the darkness, it was also powerful. He stepped forward, feeling the weight of responsibility. Then we hold each other accountable, he said fiercely. We stand shoulder to shoulder. We tackle the shadows not just one step but 1,000 steps together. The air crackled with tension, and the crowd swayed like grass in a storm. Jake felt sweat trickle down his back, unsure how much longer they could sustain this discussion without breaking apart. What we need is a pact, Mia interjected suddenly, her eyes alight with an idea. A commitment, right here under the moon, to lift each other in the face of adversity. Let us make it public, a sign that we're ready to embrace our second chance. The murmurs grew louder, excitement battling with hesitation. This was a chance to rewrite their history, a chance to move forward instead of dwelling in the past. Jake turned to the moon, shimmering brightly above them. What do we say? Will we bind ourselves to this journey? Will we write new stories together? The crowd paused, gauging one another's reactions. They held their breath, teetering on the brink of revelation. As he awaited their response, Jake's heart raced more fiercely than ever. Would they grasp this moment? Would they step beyond their fears into the light? The uncertainty loomed large, but a glimmer of possibility sparkled in the air, tantalizing and terrifying. And as the silence hung pregnant with anticipation, he silently prayed for the strength they would need to take that leap together. Suddenly, a voice broke through the stillness, as if igniting a storm of thoughts. I say yes. An elderly man, his face weathered by time and tears, pushed through the crowd. His eyes glimmered, a mix of wisdom and hope. I say we give it a shot. What do we have to lose but the weight of our past? The ballooning tension lessened, shifting toward a collective breath of relief. Jake felt his heart lift as pockets of agreement rippled through the gathering. One by one, others began to echo his sentiments. Yes, shouted a woman holding a child, her voice strong as she defied years of hardship. We deserve better for them. Mia smiled, her relief palpable, and stepped closer to Jake, their hands brushing. He felt a surge of encouragement. If we're going to do this, he said firmly, we can't just say the words. We have to mean them. Every single one. A young man raised his hand, his voice steady but vulnerable. But how do we promise that? We all know the wounds we've carved in each other. What's to stop us from hurting again? Jake locked eyes with Mia, their silent connection reinforcing their resolve. It's not about knowing we won't fail, he said, feeling the weight of the crowd's attention on him. It's about committing to trying, and not just for ourselves but for one another. We've let our fear dictate our choices for too long. It's time to let love lead. We have to be brave enough to embrace our imperfections. Murmurs grew louder, their collective energy shifting towards something more positive. A wave of agreement flowed through the crowd, faces lighting up with cautious optimism. Mia leaned closer to Jake and whispered, we should let them share their stories, remind them of the beauty in connection. Without hesitation, Jake turned back to the crowd. Let us create a place for all of our voices. Let us build a circle here, and as we speak, let us commit to listening. We each have scars, but we also carry stories of triumph. Let this be the night we transform our pain into purpose. Slowly, people started to form a circle around them. A man stepped forward first, his stance shaky, but his resolve shining through. He began to share a memory, a moment that had once brought the community together before everything fell apart. With each word, applause erupted in encouragement. Others hurled their voices into the air, recounting the joys and the hardships, their mingled stories painting a vivid tapestry of their shared history. Tears flowed freely. Laughter erupted in spots, a joyful splash against the backdrop of emotional vulnerability. Jake's heart swelled, witnessing the cracks in their anger being filled with understanding. Mia's hand found his again, squeezing tightly. He could feel the heartbeat of their community, pulsing with newfound purpose. This is what we needed," she said softly, her eyes shining. The dim light of hope flickered brighter, catching like wildfire against the tender interweaving of their stories. Just as they began to feel momentum build, a loud crash interrupted the sacred moment, the sound of something hitting the ground. All heads turned. Panic surged through the crowd. A figure stumbled from the shadows, panting, anxiety radiating off them. "What's happening?" The newcomer shouted, eyes flaring with distress, drawing attention. Jake felt his pulse quicken. Who was this? Did they come to help or to disrupt? The air crackled with uncertainty again. "Did someone follow you? Are they coming back?" whispered the woman who had first raised her concerns, her fear palpable, extending through the community like a tense wire. Jake's stomach nodded. This was not how it was supposed to go. Not tonight, when hope had begun to forge its fragile wings. Yet the frayed edges of the moment tightened around them. Will this deed of trust be severed before it even begins? Jake thought, sensing the stakes rise with each racing heartbeat. As people backed away, uncertain and defensive, he took a step forward, heart pounding. "Let us find out what's going on," he urged. His voice cut through the tension, but dread wrapped around him. What awaited them on the dark path ahead? What truths were still hidden in the shadows behind their newfound unity? The newcomer took a shaky breath, glancing over the crowd as if each face held the power to either lift or crush their spirit. "You don't understand," they called out, urgency tinging their voice. "They're coming. They're coming for what you just built." Jake's mind raced. Who was this person? What did they mean? The atmosphere thickened with fear, vibrating like a taut string ready to snap. Murmurs of discontent spread like wildfire through the circle, each one a small echo of doubt, questioning the fragile unity that had just begun to sprout. "Stay with us," Mia's voice rang out, breaking through the fog of panic. "Tell us who's coming." In that moment, Jake realized they needed to ground themselves amidst this turmoil. He stepped forward, arms slightly raised, a gesture of calm. "We want to listen. We're afraid, but we're here together. Please share what you know." Slowly, the newcomer's eyes softened, as if experiencing a drowning but hopeful rush of compassion. "There's a group," they stammered, catching their breath. They don't want to see you unite." Jake's heart sank. "Why? What do they have against us coming together?" The stranger's voice lowered, sharing a secret that tangles in fear. "Because they think you're weak. They want to maintain control. Your unity frightens them." Faces of those gathered began to shift, some with disbelief, others with growing anger. "We're stronger together," a man shouted, righteous fury lighting up his expression. Mia squeezed Jake's hand tighter. "This is the moment," she whispered, urgency threading through her words. "What we've built right here can't be shaken by threats." Jake felt the warmth of resolve spread within him. This is our chance to show them. We can't let fear dictate how we move forward. We're not weak. We're stronger than the shadows lurking outside. As he spoke, more voices chimed in, igniting one another's conviction. They weren't just individuals. They were a community too brave to back down. But just as they began to rally, the newcomer added, "They've sent spies. People who pretend to be one of you. You'll never know who you can trust." A hushed tension fell over the crowd, apprehension tickling the back of their minds. Jake could see the shared worry, reflections of uncertainty dancing across their faces. Who could be a spy, and who was truly there to stand shoulder to shoulder? No, Jake thought fiercely as he spotted the glint of fear in his neighbor's eyes. "We've come too far to let this darkness win. Look around," he shouted, voice rising above the murmurs. "This is our moment to show our strength. We have each other, our stories, our struggles, our undeniable resolve. We can internalize these fears or push through them. I choose love. I choose you." The crowd erupted in murmurs again, a clarity anchoring amidst the chaos. They began to share words of encouragement, fueling each other's spirits despite the biting weight of doubt. And then, a pause. Hope shimmered like a beacon in their hearts, yet fear lingered temptingly at the edges. The air around them grew heavy with possibilities, and Jake sensed they stood on the precipice of something transformative. What if we send out a call, a challenge? Mia suggested, voice quaking with excitement and trepidation. What if we invite them to join our circle to show them what true strength looks like? Jake turned to her, a flash of inspiration igniting. Yes, let's confront our fears head-on. But first, we need to feel our way forward. Not everyone may be ready to face this reckoning. The resolve tightened again, but could they handle the spotlight of scrutiny? As they rallied together, they looked toward the darkness, apprehension blinking in and out like a dying flame. What would unravel next? Could the very fabric of their resurrection hold in the face of growing threats? Behind them, shadows loomed unseen and unheard. With their collective voices ready, the question hovered, what would that challenge look like? And would they have the strength to stand firm against the unknown? Jake felt every heartbeat surge with potential. What awaited them at the brink of their newfound alliance? What truths lingered just beyond their reach? Mia's suggestion hung in the air like an unlit firework, brilliant yet uncertain. The crowd shifted, eyes darting from one face to another, weighing the consequences. Would they truly invite the threat into their midst? Jake felt a flicker of excitement mixed with fear coursing through him. This was a leap, but perhaps it was the leap they needed. We need to show them we're not afraid, Jake said, voice steady but laced with urgency. If we challenge them, we're claiming our strength together. We are a community worth fighting for, and they need to see that. A hushed agreement rippled through the crowd. People began to nod, tentative at first, but then more resolutely. Jake turned to the newcomer. What do you think? Should we move forward with this challenge? The stranger's eyes widened, and for a moment, vulnerability crossed their face. It's dangerous, they cautioned, the quaver in their voice a stark reminder of the risks. You don't know what they're capable of. Yet, Jake saw something else in that moment, a glint of admiration. Then let us prepare ourselves, he urged, the fire in his belly igniting. If they come, we'll be ready. We'll stand as one, shoulder to shoulder. Together, we'll prove we're not what they think. Mia stepped closer to Jake, a fierce determination radiating from her. Let us organize, then. We need everyone, those who believe in this vision of togetherness. We can create a platform for our challenge, a place for dialogue instead of fear. With renewed energy, Jake felt a surge of hope. They quickly began brainstorming ideas, voices rising in harmony, intermingled with laughter and shouts of agreement as plans began to crystallize. Gathering groups formed, each brainstorming sessions fueling fire into their collective ambition. The creation of safe spaces, art that reflected their struggles, and councils where voices were heard. People began to share their personal stories, pain and hopes interwoven, revealing the true strength that lay beneath the surface. Moments of joy flared like stars in the night as connections deepened. Jake saw families come together, neighbors embracing, the emerging bonds igniting a spirit of resilience. Yet underneath, a whisper of doubt fluttered. Would their shared strength be enough? As twilight descended, the energy shifted. The group stood before the crude wooden stage that Jake and Mia had built from salvaged materials. The crowd grew quiet. It was as if everyone held their breath, waiting for the first spark to ignite. There's something magical about coming together, like a tapestry woven with love. Mia spoke, her voice soft yet firm. It's a challenge, yes, but it's also an invitation. We're inviting strength, inviting understanding. Let us declare who we are. Who we are. The crowd echoed, a chorus rising like a wave. Just then, Jake's heart sank as a chill breeze swept through, carrying whispers that danced at the back of his mind. Doubts flitted like shadows on the outskirts of their gathering. The idea of hidden spies lurked at the edges, icy fingers wrapping around the warmth of their unity. Their collective breath hitched as the ambience shifted again. From beyond the flickering lights, Silhouettes moved in the dimness. Eyes widened, uncertainty creeping back. Then came a low rumble, barely audible but unmistakable. The distant sound of motorcycles, engines revving like the thundering heartbeats of warriors preparing for battle. Jake's stomach dropped. What is that? He wondered. Fear rippled through him, and he turned to the crowd. Would their defiance shatter like glass? As the silhouettes grew clearer, the crowd held their collective breath. The challenge was not just a whisper anymore. It was here. Whatever's coming, we face it together, he shouted, determination surging anew. In that moment, an unshakable resolve took root, echoing all around. But as the shadows drew near, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that real danger was just beginning to reveal itself. What would emerge from the darkness? Would they stand firm against the encroaching storm, or would the shadows dissolve their hope? The roar of engines filled the air, a harsh reminder that the confrontation wasn't merely a figment of Jake's imagination. The silhouettes grew closer, revealing a fleet of motorcycles weaving through the thickening twilight. Each bike seemed like a dark harbinger, wheels grinding against the earth, and Jake felt his heart quicken with every rev of the engines. Stay together, he urged, his voice ringing clear and firm, piercing through the rising tide of fear. The crowd, still gripped by uncertainty, began to shift. Many stepped closer, as if seeking orbit around a shared strength. Jake could see the tension in their faces, the fear mingling with a desperate hope. Mia moved to stand beside him, her hand gripping his tightly. This is it, Jake. We've come too far. We can't back down now. Her voice was resolute, but Jake noted the slight tremor beneath the surface. He nodded, knowing she was right. If they faltered, if they let that fear take hold, it could unravel everything they had built. As the motorcycles drew near, a group of figures emerged from the shadows. They were clad in leather jackets, helmets glinting ominously in the fading light. The atmosphere changed, electric and charged. Each soul standing in the circle felt the weight of 1,000 unsaid emotions. The riders parked their bikes, the low rumble of the engines fading but the threat hanging palpably in the air. One of the figures, taller than the others, stepped forward. He lowered his helmet, revealing a face lined with experience, hardened by battles fought in the shadows. The crowd shifted again, uncertain breaths hitching in throats. Who's the brave soul who thinks they can challenge us? He called out, his voice booming like thunder. It took all of Jake's courage to step forward, feeling the weight of those eyes upon him. I am, Jake exclaimed, his voice more confident than he felt. This community stands united, and we are taking a stand. We won't let fear control us any longer. A murmur ran through the crowd, a mix of support and apprehension. The figure chuckled, an unsettling sound bouncing off the quiet of twilight. You think that by gathering here you've found strength? You're just begging for trouble. Mia squeezed Jake's hand even tighter, her eyes wide and uncertain. But there was fire swirling in them that Jake recognized. It was the same spark igniting the crowd, that inner flame that longed for change, for understanding. Trouble is what we've had for long enough, Mia shouted back, stepping boldly alongside Jake. We're not just a group of misfits. We're a united community, and we will fight for what we believe in. Jake felt a swell of pride rise in him as the crowd echoed Mia's words, voices thundering together. We will fight for what we believe in. The tall rider's face hardened, but behind his steely demeanor, Jake sensed a flicker of something: surprise, maybe, or possibly even respect. You've got guts, I'll give you that, he said, crossing his arms. But trust me, guts alone won't shelter you from the storm coming. You'll need more than that, but maybe we can help. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, disbelief mingled with intrigue. Was there a chance for dialogue? Jake's heart raced. This was the pivotal moment. Would they stand strong and seek understanding, or would the shadows claim their resolve? What do you mean? He called out, his voice steady despite the chaos of his emotions. The rider's lips curled into a sardonic smile, a hint of challenge dancing in his eyes. You think you're ready for the real battle to come? Prove it to me. Show me what you've got and I might just teach you a thing or two. The sun dimmed further, and the air hung thick with challenge and uncertainty. Jake glanced at Mia, who met his gaze, determination mixing with fear, and he felt the weight of choice resting on their shoulders. Could they find the strength to confront whatever darkness lay ahead? Or would this challenge turn them against one another as the storm moved ever closer? Could they truly face what was to come, or would it shake the very foundation of the community they'd fought to build? The crowd held its breath, waiting for Jake's response. The shadows deepened, lengthening around them, and he could feel the rising tension in every heart, every pulse. But beneath that shroud of uncertainty, something else thrummed a quiet resilience. Mia leaned closer to Jake, her voice a mere whisper. What do we do? Do we accept his challenge? You know what's at stake. Jake could see the fear in her eyes mixed with defiance. He understood. What started as a stand against a threat had now morphed into something larger, something that tugged at the strings of their hearts. He stepped closer to the towering figure, drawing everything he had into shaping his next words. We'll take your challenge, Jake said, determination clawing at him. But it's not just for us. It's for everyone here. It's for our future. We need to prove that we're worth the risk, that we're ready to change. A flicker of surprise crossed the rider's face, but he quickly concealed it behind his hardened exterior. You're brave, kid. But bravery alone won't help when you're in the trenches. More importantly, can you trust those beside you? His eyes shifted to the crowd. Jake turned back to the people gathered. He saw fear, uncertainty, but also a burning desire to stand together. We've spent too long in silence, he called out. If we face this together, we can make a change. Who's with us? The chorus of voices echoed back, solid and fierce. We're with you. A sense of empowerment washed over Jake. They were still standing, still fighting against the tide that had threatened to pull them under. The rider nodded, a gesture of acknowledgement. All right, let us see what you're made of. The tall figure stepped back, signaling to the others. They gathered into a loose formation, revealing not just a threat but a challenge. As adrenaline pumped through his veins, Jake felt that what lay ahead was more than just a physical trial. It was a test of their unity, their spirit. All right, the rider shouted. We'll start with a simple task. Show us your resolve. Everyday people run from their fears, but we want to see if you'll stand your ground. Face us, and whatever happens next, just know it's not too late to back down. Or you can choose to fight. Jake's heart raced. He looked back at the faces of his friends, his neighbors. Mixed emotions flashed across each expression, but more and more, he saw a pulse of determination echoing back at him. They were ready to stand their ground. I won't back down, Mia shouted, clearly setting the tone. None of us will. The crowd erupted in agreement, voices rising in defiance. The riders shifted closer, engine roars rumbling softly beneath idle. There was a crackle of electricity in the air as the tall rider moved closer, and Jake felt the challenge settle deep in his bones. Then prove it. Form a line with your best fighters. Let us see who can last. But remember, this isn't just a challenge. It's a lesson. We'll show you how tough this world can be. Jake traded glances with Mia, who had her jaw set with fierce determination. The time for hesitation had passed. Whatever darkness loomed, they confront it together. The challenge felt immense, but they had each other. They had hope. Let us do this, he said, a fire igniting in his chest. As they arranged into the lineup, ready to prove their grit, he couldn't shake off the feeling that their challenge was only the beginning. The throaty roar of impending danger lingered just outside the fringes of their hope. Would they hold together, or would the strain of the fight pull them apart? The familiar hum of motorcycles filled the night, self-assured and inviting. Jake took one last glance at Mia, who was focused, her heart clearly aligned with his. Together, they stepped into the unknown. But as the challenges began, a chilling thought crept into Jake's mind. What if their resolve was tested in ways they never expected? The challenge began under the moon's watchful gaze, casting silvery light over the field where Jake and the townsfolk stood united. Riders formed a circle around them, engines idling like the pulse of a living beast. The air crackled with tension, anticipation hanging heavy like the first raindrops before a storm. "Let us see what you've got," the tall rider barked, raising his fist in the air. And just like that, the first participant stepped forward, a neighbor Jake had grown up with. Confidence radiated from him as he squared his shoulders and focused on the looming figure before him. The crowd murmured, a blend of nerves and excitement. Jake tightened his grip, glancing at Mia, who stood resolutely by his side. "We need to show them our strength," he said, the words tumbling out with unshakable resolve. "We can't falter now." As the townsfolk took turns in the center of the makeshift ring, Jake felt a surge of pride. Each showcase was filled with passionate voices rising to cheer, encouragement wrapping around each fighter like an embrace. They were not just battling for victory. They were fighting for their collective identity, weaving old wounds into new understanding. But as the final rounds approached, Jake felt the atmosphere shift. Glancing back at the encroaching darkness, he sensed that the riders weren't simply there to test them. What began as a show of strength seemed to morph into something more significant, more sinister, like a storm gathering just out of sight. "Remember," Jake called out to the crowd, his voice rising above the din. "Every struggle we face will only make us stronger. This is our stand, our moment to prove who we are." Cheering erupted from the crowd, but Jake saw doubt flicker in a few eyes. The riders observed closely, their expressions calculating as if searching for cracks in their unity. Finally, it was Jake's turn. Heart pounding, he stepped forward, feeling the weight of every gaze on him. The tall rider smirked, a challenge hanging in his stance. "Show us what you've got." Jake squared his shoulders, feeling a fire ignite within him. This was more than a display of strength. It was a pledge to the community and to the legacy of his father. He fought fiercely, fueled by the stories of resilience echoing within him. Each punch thrown and each footstep felt reborn in the light of their shared hope. But then it hit him, a strike that came from nowhere, and he felt himself falter. The crowd gasped, murmurs of concern rippling through the air. Fear crept in, threatening to unravel the moment. Jake pushed himself back up, a surge of adrenaline flooding through him. "We keep fighting," he shouted, letting every ounce of his spirit pour into those words. The moon above twinkled down, illuminating both his determination and the strength of everyone surrounding him. In that moment, something shifted. The crowd broke into a chant, voices harmonizing with his heart. Together, together. Each person drew strength from the other, weaving their fears and hopes into a collective tapestry that shimmered in the night. With fresh resolve, Jake faced the tall rider again. And this time he didn't fight alone. Crushing doubt morphed into a powerful ambition as the community rallied behind him. They were no longer just individuals stepping into the fray. They were a squad of history and humanity, standing together against the shadows. As the challenges continued, laughter mingled with shouts of encouragement. Suddenly, the fight didn't feel daunting. It felt liberating. They were weathering the storm, refusing to back down. Something magical happened. Jake realized that they were not just fighting against a group of riders. They were fighting for each other, for their home. Eventually, the tall rider stepped back, acknowledging the fire in Jake's eyes. "All right, you've proven you've got guts. But guts aren't enough unless you learn to trust one another. That's where the true strength lies." The crowd quieted, the weight of his words settling over them like a blanket. This was the turning point, the moment of realization that it wasn't just about proving their worth. It was about forging connections deeper than fear, beyond memories of hurt. Jake stepped forward again, heart swelling. "We came together to face our challenges. But what truly matters is how we move forward from here. It's about building a future where we trust each other." The riders exchanged glances, and the tall one nodded slowly. "You've got it, kid. You're not just standing for yourselves anymore. Show me you can build something strong from this." As Jake turned back to the crowd, he felt the fire of determination reigniting, but it was tinged with the sweetness of connection. And that's the promise we make tonight. We create together, we share together, and we'll rise together. This is just the beginning. The crowd erupted, voices intertwining in a beautiful chorus of hope and support, the doubts that lingered dissipating like mist under the dawn. They were no longer merely a community struggling together. They were interconnected, a mosaic of courage forged in the flames of adversity. With the moon shining brightly overhead, they stepped forward united, ready to face whatever came their way. The night had not only challenged them but transformed them, a heady mix of fear, courage, and unity now woven through their hearts. Jake smiled at Mia, who beamed back, her spirit glimmering with an essence of trust. They had begun to rewrite their story, a story of hope, courage, and transformation. They were ready to face the future together, hand in hand, under the watchful gaze of the moon and the hopeful hearts of their fellow townsfolk. And as they clasped hands around the fire where words and dreams intertwined, Jake knew one absolute truth. This community wasn't just surviving. They were thriving, together. Now, as you've shared in this journey full of transformation, the moment has come to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your engagement truly makes a difference. Comment below what your thoughts and feelings are about this inspiring ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with your actions.